People once believed that when someone dies, a crow carries their soul to the land of the dead. But sometimes, just sometimes, the crow can bring that soul back to put the wrong things right.
Hello, welcome back. Jess Flicks with Jesse. Once again, we're going to dive into something I kind of almost been putting off in a way. I'm trying to get better at doing reviews, things like that, right? I don't want to short sell some of my favorite movies by doing a less than stellar job. I guess I can always come back and revisit, right? That's not me saying it's going to be a shitty review. I'm just saying I was always trepidatious to jump into certain things. There's certain movies I feel like I've been trying to work up to, but fuck it. You got to jump sometimes. Sometimes you got to run before you can walk. I'm kind of feeling more comfortable in my skin now with doing this stuff, and now it just seems like the right time for this. I just did a reaction to the Crow remake trailer just a few days ago, and I mentioned I want to do a review series of the Crow series, everything that's happened beforehand leading up to the release of that one. And we got a little time, but I don't want to rush myself. I feel like now's as good a time as any to kind of start doing these. We got 4 movies total, for better or worse. We'll get to those as we get to them, right? Some of varying degrees. Some are actually better than you might expect. One, maybe, really. But point in case, we're starting with the Big Daddy. This is such a very important movie to me personally, and I think a lot of people maybe that grew up in my time, being a teenager in the 90s. It's a very pivotal kind of movie, if that makes sense. It will always hold a very special place in my heart. This is a movie, my brother and I were talking the other night about it, as we were talking about the remake, of course, but just how much of an impact this had on me in different ways. It might be silly to say about a movie, maybe not, I don't know. You can take it your own way. We all, especially when you're that age, you're very susceptible to things, or things have a bigger impact maybe. But I will never forget that movie. And it was, again, 94. I was probably 14 when I saw this movie. And I didn't get to see it in the theater, but I had it on VHS to put everything in. It was 94. It was on VHS. We didn't have DVDs or Blu-ray or streaming. VHS. I rented it till I couldn't rent it anymore, and then I just bought it finally, right? It was a different thing back then. Just even owning a movie was a bit more of a chore. If you would actually look back on how much those video stores would pay for copies of those movies, I mean, you're talking a lot of money. It was a couple $100, I think, back in the day, if I'm not mistaken. And eventually they would kind of come out of circulation a bit. Like, it wouldn't be the big hot thing, and you could get like used copies for, whatever, 20, 10, depending on the movie and how many copies they had of it. So eventually I bought the copy that I had rented 100 times probably. But yeah, absolutely in love with this movie. Let me think here. Where do we start? So, directed by Alex Proyas. Am I saying that right? I hope I'm saying it right. The only other thing I really know that he's done, that at least it stands out to me, I think he's done other stuff maybe recently even. I feel like he did something recently that wasn't, I don't know if it was good or not. I didn't see it. I'm sad to say. But admitted. But the last one I really remember standing out that he did was Dark City. And that was a fucking cool movie. If you haven't seen Dark City and you like The Crow, check out Dark City. Kiefer Sutherland, Rufus Sewell. Is that his name? Sewell? I know I'm missing some other people that are in it. I think Jennifer Connelly's in it. Fuck, I hope I'm right on that. Might be embarrassing myself. But again, it's another one of these like gothic, very cinematic, very Really cool movie, really cool story too, incidentally. Not to get sidetracked on that, we'll do that movie. Maybe I'll do it when I get done with the Crow stuff, because it kind of ties in, or in the midst of it. Maybe I'll throw that in there. Let me know if you want to hear a Dark City review. But if you haven't seen that one, really cool. It fits. It's a great kind of almost, I want to say, companion piece to The Crow, but it's, it holds up in a similar light. It's a very different type of movie, but a visually stunning, very dark story, very original story too. But anyway, Alex Proyas did a great job. James O'Barr wrote and I think he drew. I'm pretty sure he drew all the. I don't want to say that wrong. I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong. The graphic novel is based on, and fuck, dude, I think he was pretty involved in the production, if I'm not mistaken, too. But I actually think he might have helped write the script even. Point in case, coming from this it was a black and white graphic novel, very dark, very different. I think maybe the graphic novel was that. It might have been late 80s, early 90s. It was a bit before before the movie came out. They really captured a lot. There's a lot more in the graphic novel. They go a lot of different routes and a lot more stuff that's there. Obviously, it's a more fleshed out, longer form media, right? But the movie, to me, because I've obviously seen both, and I've really got into it. It was after the movie that I went back and found the graphic novel at the library. Don't sleep on libraries, guys. They hopefully are still fantastic. I mean, you should read, but they have other really great stuff there. They really captured all the important bits and all the themes and the look and the feel. And that's something that, like, I just cannot emphasize enough about how spectacular this movie is, and what makes it that way is you're in this world, and it's one of those movies that pulls you into a world that is somewhat hyper realistic, right? I never lived in Detroit or anything like that, right? I'm not like saying that, but this is like this, like, again, hyper realistic, right? We're a little past the boundaries of where we're actually at, but still somewhat grounded, right? Like, there's something like, I don't want to start saying like a lot. I'm trying to be that person. It feels real enough to hit you and to be relatable. And yet at the same time, it's also, past that enough where you can kind of swallow a lot of what's going on, and you can kind of accept and suspend disbelief. And the point, right? Like, it just all works in that, like, somebody coming back from the dead to avenge himself and his fiance. Cool as that would be in real life, it's not. It's not what it is, but you still have it in a most grounded world. And it's funny, as I remember seeing the big poster. I think it was a stand up they had at my local video store. It wasn't a chain; it was a local video store. And it was the Crow one, and I remember, like, it was a quote at the bottom saying the best movie of its kind since Batman, and we're talking about '89 Batman, Tim Burton's Batman, and that's a great comparison. It's dark, it's gritty. You feel like this is an even nastier version of Gotham. You feel like this is a much more nasty version of Batman, right? In a way, it's the best comparison. This is all pre-Marvel era. This is all pre where we're at and have been for like the last decade or so, even more, right? 16 plus years. I don't know. It's been a long time since we started the MCU, and even whatnot. But back in the day, man, if we got a comic book movie, there's a chance it was pretty dark and pretty gritty and probably R-rated. 4 years after this came out, we had Blade, which was badass, R-rated, bloody, violent, vulgar, just kick-ass movie, right? Unapologetic. This is the same thing. This one has so much heart, though. Of course, Brandon Lee, right? I mean, we got to bring it up. I remember watching some of his other movies before. Was definitely a fan. It was Bruce Lee's son, right? How could you? I was an old school action fan. I grew up with uncles that loved Bruce Lee, and so I knew who the fuck that was. And when his son kind of came on the scene doing action movies, I was there. The two that really stood out was like Rapid Fire and was it Showdown in Little Tokyo or something like that. And with Dolph Lundgren, great movie. Goofy but fun, awesome movie. But dude was working his way up, right? And this was like, tragically, of course, we're going to keep saying tragically. I think this was his breakthrough. This was the one that was going to push him into that next level. Because this was a different type of production. This wasn't a cheesy action movie. This was not him just being, the tough cop or whatever it was. It was, I don't know if they ever actually played a tough cop, but I think he did. But point in case, totally different role. Totally different character. Totally just out of his norm, what he had played before. And damn, like, he nailed it. Like, he really did. He really caught that character perfectly. And, again, how tragic, though. How much of a bummer. That don't make that sound cheap, but it's really how much of a bummer, man. We were on the way. This was definitely a performance for a career for him. And I'm happy he got to do it, and I'm honestly happy at the status this movie has. I don't know, what weight the tragedy has on that. I always question that with movies like this, or like The Dark Knight. You're like, the movie's good, right? The Dark Knight's good, but like then you have like this extra layer of tragedy on top of it, and you wonder, like, did that influence it all, right? It couldn't have not. I mean, we can never know. But I will always think that this is just, I don't know, it's something special. So let's get into the movie. I've just been rambling on about like what I feel and think about the movie, but that's what this is. I'm not a critic. I'm a reviewer. This is what I think and feel about a movie. Some of the important shit I think we need to mention here, first of all, is the bad guys. Supporting cast type shit, right? Bad guys first, though. The crew, the bad guys, the ones that killed him and his fiancée. It's a 30-year-old movie, guys. Spoilers. I'm sorry if I'm giving stuff away. Are fantastic. Like, you have some, just each one of them, was it T-Bird, Tintin, Fun Boy, Skank, right? Those are the four main ones. Am I forgetting? I don't think I'm forgetting one. They're all nasty pieces of work, but they're all very individual defined characters, and they're played well by their actors. T-Bird, I've seen this guy growing up. I've seen him in a lot. I still see him in stuff to this day. I didn't look up names. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to this whole like trying to dig down the rabbit hole back and whatnot. But I just remember Commando, and I remember more recently John Wick. He was the guy who came and cleaned up after John Wick when he made dinner reservations. Tintin, I will always remember from Hackers, which, same time frame, mid-90s right there. Another memorable movie, classic 90s vibe. And Skank, I can honestly not say. I don't know what else he's been in. I didn't really look him up, but nothing's really popped into mind, right? But it's still a very memorable performance, memorable character. And Fun Boy, to get back to the tragedy, is the man who was holding the weapon that apparently ended Brandon Lee's life, right? No fault of his own, nothing ever. It was all just apparently a big, random fucked up situation. And that dude, I think, from what I understand, again, I read about this years ago, but I'm going to kind of pull it back up right now. He went in I think he went into seclusion for years and years after that. Like it fucked him up. And the next thing that I know that I've ever seen him in was in Seven. And what a movie to come back into, right? And he was just the proprietor of the the sleaze shop or sleazy hotel or wherever where the giant bladed dildo lust murder scene took place, and he's in that great interrogation scene. But that's Fun Boy. If you didn't know that, that's him. And yeah, how wild is that, right? That he made a comeback there. And then you have like the higher ups, right? Mainly being Top Dollar, played by Michael Wincott, who dude's a fucking G. I love Michael Wincott and everything he's in. He's got a voice like syrup, you know. He's got gravelly syrup, but syrup. Just this persona and the way he carries himself was so perfect for that character. He's a guy that you feel like, you know, he's especially his interactions and when he's dealing with Brandon Lee, especially, and talking about it even, he's just somebody that's like, you know, very aware of how bad of a person he is and embracing it fully. And it's really kind of pungent. There's something about that really is chilling and strangely comforting, if that makes sense. Like there's something about him that you're like, this is a really bad dude, but you know, he's treating you with respect at the same time. Not everybody, but just mostly Brandon Lee. His right-hand man was Grange, played by the original and the best Candyman, of course, Tony Todd, who's also been in a lot of great stuff, of course, but he's always going to be Candyman to me. And you want to talk about a voice? All right, let's go back. That dude's got a voice like syrup. Okay, warm, smooth syrup. Tony Todd carries himself, and I'll always remember he's got like the, what do you call that? It's not a ring. It's like a gauntlet almost, like a whole pinky encasement with a hinge in it and stuff. It's pretty cool. I will never forget. I always remember that though in that movie. That was a really cool little piece. And then it was like Top Dollar's half sister, which is weird because they have like this weird incestuous relationship throughout. Of course, just adds a bit to the movie there. You're like, these are obviously some twisted fucks. But and she's kind of more in the mystical dark art kind of stuff. You kind of get that vibe throughout, taking eyeballs out. They're smoking eyeballs, snorting coke, and she's always talking in some really cryptic shit, right? So those are higher ups. And then another thing that really, like, I think worked in this one more than, at least to me and the others, to the best of my knowledge anyway, or being able to remember, is as he's taking them out, as he's working his way up, all of their deaths are very much personal. Like, they're very personal. Personal is the right way to say it. You know, they just all fit the character. 1010's a knife guy. He gets knocked to death, right? But it's done in a cool way. It's a very cool scene. It's not overly like choreographed action. It's actually a pretty grungy fight. Fun Boy dies from a heroin overdose, essentially, right? But again, it's just the way that Brandon Lee, the Crow, like, or Eric Draven, however you want to call it, right? Torments him in the scene, and the way he interacts with them and stuff. It's not, you know, he comes in there all malicious and evil. He comes in there kind of fucking with them. And there's a poetry to it all. And I like that. It's like this whole somberness that even like in killing these people, that in itself is sad. Even though they deserve it, it's still sad. And he, you know, Sarah, fuck, let me just dive in. This is all over the map. I don't want to write too much down. I want to come from the heart with this one. Yeah, the fact that Sarah is such an innocent character, and you got people that are looking after her and stuff, and then like her mother is involved with Fun Boy, and there's that scene where she is like the innocence, right, in the beginning of the movie, or the movie itself, but she's the one, you know, that's kind of the heart, right, and or the soul, I don't know what you want to call it, but you know, and her mother's a junkie and involved with Fun Boy. In that scene when he's dispatching Fun Boy, he takes her aside and like squeezes the heroin out of her arm, which is a really fucked up scene, but powerful and beautiful again, you know. And he gives her a chance to go back and fix things with Sarah, or at least try to start. And again, it's just this through line of hope that kind of keeps popping up. It's such a dark movie. There's these, you know, these great characters that just kind of pop with we're not all shitty people in this world, you know. And I think it's important for us all to remember. Let's try to hope. I mean, I'm not saying you got to trust everybody, but I'm saying don't hate everybody either. Anyway, so yeah, the Fun Boy scene's great. And then we get to T-Bird, which, like, there's something so, like, it might be my favorite, that whole scene, that whole build up to that scene, everything about it is kind of beautiful. Like, you know, when he kidnaps him, and you know, he's trying to be a hard ass the whole day. He is a hard ass the whole time. He's a heartless fuck. That's fine. But there's a point, he's got him duct taped to the car and his seat and stuff, and the dude's, you know, they don't even see him telling him what happened, but he's like, it cuts into him saying, like, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember, you know, we had to do this, we had to, you know, whatever. Still acting hard, still talking shit about Shelley. And him even, you know, and about Eric showing up and ruining everything. And there's that click, like when he walks up to the driver's side window after he's done all this, before he throws the incendiary grenade in his lap. And when he realizes that, you know, who he is, what's happening, and there's like this like wild like switch where you kind of, I mean, I'm not saying you know you do, but maybe you kind of feel sad for this dude. Like, he realizes everything in that moment, and he just starts quoting Milton, which is what he was quoting, like, as they're victimizing Shelley, right? And apparently the actor, he had bought an actual antique version of, you know, Milton's Paradise Lost. I think it was Paradise Lost versus the Divine Comedy. Anyway, I'm not an expert on Milton, but he starts just quoting it, and you see the way his voice is cracking, and the desperation and the sadness there is really palatable. And you're like, man, this is like the one dude, you know, who understood what was happening to him, and like how sad and how much he deserved it. And he still was struggling with that. Like, there was just this thing about it, like something, like the dude's performance was so beautiful, and like the music too, right? The swelling in that scene is all of it's just so perfect. And, you know, he just throws the car into gear after he chucks the grenade in the dude's lap, and, you know, it goes up in flames. Skank sees it happen, and he lights he did the lighter fluid and lights the giant crow emblem on fire. Beautiful, iconic, right? And it's funny because then you get to, like, Skank's the one who's made it out so far, which is weird because he's like the most, like, completely inept one of the group. He's like the most tweaked out, like, lunatic. Dude can't even barely talk. He can't, I mean, this dude couldn't hold a conversation with you, you know. But he's the one that kind of skirted away, and then Eric, you know, comes after him, of course, and doing so ends up in Top Dollar's world. You know, let's just say it that way, because I want to kind of transition this into talking about the soundtrack, because this is kind of leads into the final part of the movie. Excuse me. The soundtrack is something I just got to bring up right now, and it's something that makes The Crow. I know we talked about it briefly earlier, but every single track on that soundtrack takes me back to that movie and to that place in my life, and what I feel, what I felt then. It introduced me to a lot of great artists, a lot of things that I had not yet discovered at that age. I was, like I said, 14. It's 94. I feel like maybe it exposed a lot of people, some of these groups. Maybe not entirely, I mean, but like The Cure, and I love The Cure. And I'm sure I'd heard The Cure before this. I couldn't tell you that for sure. When I started hearing more Cure stuff, I'm like, yeah, I definitely know these songs. But Burn on that soundtrack, and the scene that plays through when he's making himself up and he's becoming the Crow, essentially, right? The transformation scene is so beautiful, powerful, and perfectly, like, it's the perfect song for that. And I will always, if I hear the beginning of that song, like, I'm taken back instantly to that scene. And that can be said for every one of these songs. But Nine Inch Nails, again, I'm pretty sure this was my introduction to Nine Inch Nails. Henry Rollins, Pantera, Milquetoast, not Milquetoast, but Helmet, man, I know I'm missing some, but like, yeah, the Rage Against the Machine song, like I really didn't discover Rage even more until later, and I actually came back. I'm like, that is them, that's them on the soundtrack. Sorry, I get a little scattered there. I'm trying to like pick through all of these, but everything about it. And then going into where we were at before was Skank and Top Dollar, and they're in the big, his kind of conference room loft area where he's plotting out what Devil's Night's gonna be this year. And you've got My Life with a Thrill Kill Cult playing downstairs, playing After the Flesh, and that song, dude, like, will forever. Like, I just can see the entire scene of going in, because God, this such an encapsulation of the 90s. That is like the epitome of it to me. But it's playing over this whole scene, one of the most badass scenes in the movie. And I can say that about a lot of scenes I probably have already. The scene where Eric just walks in there with this room full of badass, gangsters and thugs and whatnot. It's like, I want him. I mean, you can't have him. And they shoot him to shit, and he just kills everybody in that fucking room. And it is the most cool scene in the movie. Done so well, done with a great score and backtrack. The fact that Eric was like the back kick over himself, kicks a dude in the office chair out the window of the loft, and he falls basically into the mosh pit and breaks up the party. And that's when the music cuts. It's so cool, man. It's so cool, and it's so beautiful. Like I said again, it's the music. It's everything about this just comes together to make something truly special. The final like showdown and stuff with with Eric and Top Dollar kind of comes to pass because they snatch up Sarah, right? They kind of figure out what's going on, the bad guys, and so Eric has to go after Sarah. And this is a good time to mention something that was taken out of the movie, which is I believe it's called The Skeleton Cowboy. I'm gonna look it up. Hopefully, I've got some pictures that I'll pop up along the way here. Which was part of the comic book, but it was actually shot. I think a bit of it was shot for the movie because there are pictures of it, but they decided to leave out later. And he was basically the spirit guide for Eric, more so than the Crow. He actually would come out and give you like exposition and explain what's going on. And I'm kind of glad they left it out, especially in the movie. In the comic, I think in the graphic novel, I think it works fine to get that exposition. Comics tend to do that more. In the movie, I think the Crow is just kind of a guide, and we can figure out what's happening. I love that about the movie. It didn't insult our intelligence, right? So there was a point though that he told him like, hey, you got to leave her. You can't go after her. You've done what you came to do. You killed those that wronged you. This doesn't concern you. You have nothing to do with the living anymore. It's time to go back. And then if he kind of turned his back on that and he became damned. But in the movie, it's simpler. Like if we kill the Crow, it takes his power away. And that's what they try to do. And Eric's like, I got to go after Sarah. They try to kill the Crow. They wound it, which apparently is enough to take his power away. I never really kind of understood that part of it because the Crow wasn't dead. And just when you think things are totally done, who comes in with Officer Albert, right? Like comes in blasting. I mean, I would have loved to have been in the theater. I don't know if it went down this way, but I'd like to think that people were clapping and hooting and hollering that he came in because he's had Eric's back the entire movie. Again, Sarah's, I know what I said earlier, she's the heart, the soul, but let's just say she's the innocence, right? And Albert, Ernie Hudson's character is the heart. He's somebody that had no reason. He cared. He's a cop that cared, but he really went out of his way because it really bothered him what happened. He knew how bad it was, and he was there to help Eric, and I really appreciate that. I always loved that. I thought it was so cool. And he was willing to sacrifice himself. Dude, like, got fucked up. Didn't die. Cool, right? But he could have. He threw himself out there and got shot several times and he was trying to stop all the bad stuff that was happening and trying to do the right thing and help somebody out. And I always loved that about this movie. It was just like, you know, that's a good guy. And like I said again, it's one of those, again, the light and the darkness, right? The hope that was in this movie. There's so much of it there. And even, like I said, following appropriate deaths, you know, Top Dollar's half sister, and I can't remember her name. Doesn't really matter. Whatever. You know, she's still being very cryptic, and I have your crow, so now I have your power, and the crow just scratches and pecks her eyes out, and she falls out of the bell tower, and it's so cool. You're just like, yeah, cool. You know, he's even kind of got the same reaction, just, yeah, that's you should have seen that coming. We all should have seen that coming. And he finally gets to the showdown with Top Dollar, and I mean, how appropriate. Of course, he's got a sword. Eric, you know, he gets pretty fucked up. He gets ran through, and I love, like, the way that Top Dollar talks to him at the end. You know, like, telling him about how his dad told him that every man's got a devil, and, you know, that he's going to miss him. And you put a smile on my face. And just so much of this character. He's such a dark, twisted character that embraces it. And Eric is able to finish him off because he was able to read Albrecht's mind earlier, about what Shelley went through in the hospital. It was like 30 hours of pain, right? Is that what he said? And he just gives it to him all in one blast. And he has to suffer through that instantly, and he falls off, gets impaled on a gargoyle, and, you know, it's a gargoyle like gutter, so like all the blood's pouring. It's such a cool, gratifying shot, right? And then, yeah, so I mean, the movie wraps up basically. Luckily, Albrecht's not dead. He did decide to quit smoking, though, so right on. Him and Sarah kind of wrap things up, and then Eric goes back, lays on his grave, and the ghostly, heavenly Shelley comes in to bring him back to the land of the dead, right? Beautiful ending. And then the song, right? Back to the music. Is it Jane Siberry? Is it Siberry? I wrote it down. Yeah, Siberry. I'm just going to say Siberry. That's probably, I'm mispronouncing it. I apologize. It Can't Rain All the Time, which is a theme throughout the movie. That's a quote from one of his songs. And yeah, it's perfect. It's like so melodic, haunting, and perfect. And it just like, you know, it gets you choked up. I get choked up thinking about it even now. Like, whenever I hear this song, like, just, it chills down my spine. But anyway, so that's what I got to say about The Crow. I know I was all over the map there. This is so much. Maybe I should have wrote stuff down. I don't know. I'm sure I left stuff out, but it feels robotic when I'm reading shit from a script. So I did kind of go over things, what I wanted to talk about. Maybe I left some stuff out. I apologize if I did. Understand that all that matters is this means a lot to me. This is a great movie, one that is super special, will always be special. And yeah, that's really all I got. We'll get on to the sequels coming up here pretty soon, really soon actually, because I want to get through them. I'm trying not to be too mean. There's some gold in there. There's some stuff in there that's worth talking about and stuff that's worth pointing out, but this is a one of its kind. Like, I can't imagine them ever doing better than this, and they shouldn't try. The remake may be good. I think it's going to be its own thing. That's the only thing I can say about it being so different from this, is that at least they weren't trying to steal from this too much. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, this is its own thing, and it's a product of its time. To try that now, I don't know if it would be effective or not. I doubt it. But I don't know if the way they took is going to be good either. So, but that's not what this is about. Anyway, thank you so much for hanging out. This is a long video. I apologize if it was boring. I doubt it. Come on, I'm pretty fun. But please let me know what you think in the comments down below, guys. Were you about my age when you saw the movie? Did it have the impact that did? Were you older? Were you a bit older person when you seen this? Were you younger? Have you recently discovered the movie? And how do you feel about it? What do you think? And how does it hold up to you? That's all fun stuff. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please consider hitting the subscribe button down below. That would be really cool, because then we can get to the rest of the series. Hit that notification bell, and I'll let you know when I put the next video up. If you like the video, please hit that like button too. And as again, like I said before, most importantly, above all else, please comment. Let me know what you guys think, what you think about the movie, your memories with the movie and stuff. This is a special one, so I'd love to hear what you all think. And until next time, take care.